Below is an extended narrative in American English detailing the incredible story of a pit bull who prevented an attack on its owner during a late-night walk. This story weaves together vivid descriptions of the tense moments, first-hand interviews, and the lasting impact of the dog's solid training and unshakable temperament in a high-stress environment. Under a moonlit sky on a cool autumn night, the city's familiar streets took on an otherworldly glow. The pavement reflected scattered streetlights while a gentle chill filled the air. In one quiet neighborhood, where residents often strolled home under the protective watch of dimly lit lampposts, a man named Robert was making his way along a narrow, tree-lined sidewalk. His pace was measured, his thoughts drifting between the events of the day and plans for tomorrow. Unbeknownst to him, this ordinary night would soon be transformed into a moment of life-altering heroism. Robert was an unassuming man who had learned to appreciate the simple pleasures in life, a warm cup of coffee in the early morning, a friendly nod to neighbors, and the steady companionship of his loyal pit bull, Titan. Titan was not only a pet but a well-trained guardian who had been with Robert for several years. Their bond had grown from countless shared walks and quiet evenings spent on the back porch. And Titan's calm, reliable presence had always given Robert a sense of security in an unpredictable world. On this particular night, as Robert walked home along a familiar route, the quiet was suddenly pierced by an undercurrent of tension. The darkened street, bordered by tall buildings and shadowed alleys, harbored a secret, a potential threat that crept along the periphery of his vision. As he passed through a narrow alley adjacent to a row of shuttered storefronts, a figure emerged from the darkness. The potential attacker, cloaked in a long coat and moving with a deliberate, predatory gait, began to approach in an almost calculated manner. The figure's eyes glinted under the faint light, and the sound of footsteps on wet pavement added an unsettling rhythm to the quiet night. Titan, who was secured to Robert by a sturdy leash, immediately sensed the danger. His ears pricked up, and his eyes, usually soft and affectionate, hardened into an expression of alertness and determination. The dog's instincts, honed by years of rigorous training and the unbreakable bond with his owner, kicked in like a switch. Even though he was still tethered to Robert, Titan managed to pull with controlled urgency, drawing his owner's attention to the unfolding threat. In a deep, resonant bark that broke through the ambient noises of the night, Titan positioned himself as a barrier between Robert and the approaching figure. The scene that unfolded was cinematic in its intensity. The attacker, who had intended to strike swiftly and vanish into the darkness, was caught off guard by the unexpected ferocity of a dog that, by all accounts, was known for its loyalty and gentle nature. Titan's barks grew louder, echoing off the brick walls of the alley and reverberating in Robert's ears. His body was tense, muscles coiled and ready to act, and his stance was resolute, a clear message that any ill intent would not be tolerated. Robert, startled by the sudden commotion, slowed his pace and looked over his shoulder. His heart pounded as he realized that the situation was escalating quickly. A short distance away, a couple of passers-by had noticed the commotion. One man, who was returning from a late shift at a nearby diner, paused and observed the scene with a mixture of caution and concern. He recalled later in an interview how he had seen Titan's imposing figure standing firm in the alley, his barks cutting through the tension. It was like he was telling the whole world to back off. The man explained, "I'd never seen a dog act with such authority." His words underscored the profound impact that the well-trained pit bull had on the situation. Meanwhile, Robert's instincts, bolstered by Titan's protective behavior, kicked in as well. Though his first reaction was one of fear, he realized that his faithful companion was working hard to shield him from the threat. With trembling hands, he gripped the leash tighter, his eyes scanning the darkened figure as it advanced. Titan's growls deepened, resonating with a tone that was both commanding and reassuring. The potential attacker, who had planned his approach with the assumption that his presence would go unnoticed, suddenly found himself confronted with an obstacle he had not anticipated, a dog whose training and loyalty made him a formidable guardian. As the attacker hesitated, the tension in the alley grew almost unbearable. The dim light flickered over the scene, and for a few heartbeats, time seemed to slow down. Robert could feel the adrenaline coursing through his veins, a mix of fear and awe at the sight of Titan standing guard. The dog's gaze was fixed on the intruder, his posture unyielding, as if he were daring the attacker to come any closer. The attacker, now visibly unsettled by the dog's fierce presence, exchanged uncertain glances with himself. It was clear that his plan was unraveling. The situation reached a critical juncture when Titan, sensing that his barks had disrupted the attacker's momentum, increased his volume and intensity. With a series of rapid, insistent barks, he made it unmistakably clear that any attempt to harm his owner would be met with immediate and uncompromising resistance. The attacker, now fully aware that the element of surprise was lost, began to retreat slowly. His movements were hurried and uncoordinated, a stark contrast to the confident stride he had exhibited moments before. As he backed away into the darkness of the alley, the echo of Titan's barks followed him like a spectral reminder of the night's unfolding drama. In the aftermath, the atmosphere in the alley shifted dramatically. The immediate threat had dissipated, leaving behind a charged silence punctuated only by the fading sound of Titan's barks and the distant hum of city life resuming its normal cadence. Robert, still shaking from the close encounter, stood in the dim light of the alley, his heart pounding and his mind racing with a mixture of relief and disbelief. He reached down to gently pat Titan's head, whispering words of gratitude to the dog who had saved him from a potentially dangerous situation. The bond between them, forged over countless peaceful walks and quiet evenings, had been dramatically reinforced in that moment of crisis. Later that night, as Robert recounted the incident to a small group of neighbors who had gathered outside his home, his voice was filled with both lingering fear and profound appreciation. "I never thought something like this could happen," he said, his eyes reflecting the gravity of the event. "But Titan, my loyal friend, showed up when I needed him most. He stood there like a wall between me and the danger. And because of him, I'm here to tell the tale." His words, shared with raw honesty, resonated deeply with everyone present. Several of his neighbors later described the incident as a turning point in their perception of security in their community, emphasizing how a well-trained animal could be a powerful deterrent against crime. Local law enforcement, informed about the incident soon after it transpired, commended Robert for his calmness under pressure and praised Titan's exemplary behavior. In a statement released the following morning, the local police chief remarked, "We are deeply impressed by the actions of the Johnson family's Pitbull. His timely intervention prevented what could have been a serious attack, and his behavior is a shining example of the positive impact that well-trained and disciplined animals can have in our community." The statement was met with widespread applause from community members, many of whom had previously held reservations about the breed. As the night turned to dawn, media vans began to line the quiet streets, capturing footage of a serene neighborhood now tinged with the extraordinary story of a Pitbull's heroism. Several local news channels aired segments that included interviews with Robert, who recounted the events in detail. In one interview, he described the exact moment when Titan's alert barks had first signaled the danger, emphasizing how his faithful companion's instincts had prevented a potential tragedy. "It wasn't just his bark, it was the look in his eyes," Robert recalled, his voice steady despite the emotional weight of the memory. "That look told me he was ready to protect me at all costs. And it's something I'll never forget." The interview went viral on social media, sparking discussions about the importance of pet training and the remarkable capacity of dogs to protect their owners in times of need. In addition to media coverage, several eyewitnesses who had observed the incident offered their perspectives. A young woman who had been walking her own dog nearby recalled how she had noticed a sudden commotion in the alley. "I saw the Pitbull standing there, barking at someone who was creeping up on Robert," she said in a later interview. "It was incredible to see such bravery in an animal that so many people had misunderstood." Her testimony was echoed by others, including an elderly gentleman who had witnessed the attack from his front porch. "I've lived here for over 40 years, he explained. "I've seen my share of odd happenings, but nothing like this. That dog, that Pitbull, proved that loyalty and training can make all the difference in protecting a life." Over the ensuing weeks, the story of Titan's intervention became a staple topic at local community meetings and neighborhood gatherings. Parents, especially those with young children, felt a renewed sense of security knowing that even in the dark of night, vigilant guardians like Titan were on watch. The incident sparked a wave of interest in pet training classes and workshops focused on self-defense and protection techniques for animals. Many residents, inspired by the story, decided to enroll in classes that promised to improve the discipline and responsiveness of their own pets. Hoping to emulate the remarkable behavior they had witnessed, local animal trainers also took note of Titan's performance. In one detailed workshop held at the community center, a renowned dog trainer explained that the key to Titan's success lay not only in his natural instincts but in the rigorous training he had undergone with his owner over the years. A well-trained dog has the confidence to act decisively in high-stress situations. The trainer stated during his presentation, Titan's behavior was a perfect example of how discipline, combined with a strong bond between the dog and its owner, can create a protective force that is both effective and inspiring. The trainer's insights were later shared in local newspapers and online forums, adding an educational dimension to the narrative of Titan's heroic act. As the story continued to spread, local authorities began to consider new initiatives aimed at strengthening community security. Discussions took place in town hall meetings about installing additional street lighting, increasing patrols in areas known for potential criminal activity, and even partnering with local animal shelters to promote the training of guardian dogs. Many community members expressed their support for these proposals, viewing them as a proactive step toward preventing future incidents. "We can learn a lot from what happened that night," one council member remarked during a public meeting. "It shows us that sometimes, the best protection comes not from technology, but from the loyalty and instincts of a well-trained animal." His words resonated deeply with the audience, further cementing the importance of responsible pet training in community safety strategies. Back at home, Robert and Titan's relationship grew even stronger in the days that followed the incident. The close call had deepened the trust between them, and Robert began to see his faithful companion in a new light, not just as a pet, but as a guardian and partner in life. Every evening, as the sun set and the streets darkened once more, Robert would take a moment to thank Titan for his unwavering loyalty. In quiet, reflective moments on the porch, he would stroke Titan's coarse fur and recall the nerve-wracking moments in the alley, a soft smile of gratitude playing on his lips. "I'm truly blessed to have you by my side," he whispered, and Titan would lean into the touch, as if acknowledging the bond that words could not fully capture. The neighborhood's response to Titan's heroism had a ripple effect on local perceptions of pit bulls as a breed. Once regarded with suspicion by many, pit bulls began to be seen as capable of immense loyalty, discipline, and even heroism. Stories like Titan's challenged decades of negative stereotypes and inspired a broader movement advocating for the re-examination of how these dogs were treated and understood. Advocacy groups organized adoption events, educational campaigns, and community forums that celebrated the positive attributes of pit bulls, using Titan's story as a shining example of the transformative power of love, training, and empathy. In one widely viewed social media video, clips of Titan's intervention were intercut with heartfelt testimonials from Robert, eyewitnesses, and even law enforcement officials. The video featured no on-screen text, only the raw power of images, Titan's determined gaze, Robert's relieved expression as he recounted the events, and close-up shots of the dimly lit alley where it had all occurred. The evocative soundtrack, a mix of stirring piano notes and subtle, rising orchestral swells, added an emotional layer that left viewers tearful yet hopeful. Comments and shares multiplied rapidly, and hashtags such as #TitanTheGuardian and #PitbullProtector trended in local online communities, uniting people under the banner of compassion and collective security. In subsequent interviews with local media, Robert and several neighbors expressed that the experience had not only prevented an attack but had also opened their eyes to the importance of community vigilance. "We realized that we are all responsible for keeping our streets safe," one neighbor noted. Titan's bravery reminded us that it only takes one alert dog to change the course of an entire night. The sentiment spread like wildfire, and soon community leaders found themselves championing initiatives that encouraged residents to look out for one another. Whether by forming neighborhood watch groups or by participating in public safety workshops, the transformation that night was echoed by local law enforcement as well. The police department, which had received reports of the potential attack, later released a statement praising the timely intervention of the Johnson family's Pitbull. The actions of this remarkable dog exemplify the spirit of community and the importance of preparedness. The statement read, "We are grateful that such loyalty and quick thinking prevented what could have been a tragic event. This incident serves as a powerful reminder of the role that responsible pet ownership and proper training can play in our collective safety." Their acknowledgement lent official weight to Titan's heroic deed and further validated the community's newfound respect for dogs of his breed. As autumn deepened and the nights grew longer and colder, the memory of that fateful evening became a source of strength and unity for the neighborhood. Families organized small gatherings to discuss local safety, share their own experiences, and honor the quiet heroes among them. At one community event held in a local park, children drew pictures of dogs in superhero capes, and adults shared stories of personal courage and the unexpected ways in which help had arrived in their lives. In every conversation, Titan's image emerged, a steadfast guardian whose actions had transcended the ordinary and reminded everyone that love, loyalty, and a well-trained heart could make all the difference in the face of danger. In the weeks that followed, as the city began to implement new safety measures and educational programs, Titan's story remained a cherished reminder of what could be achieved when people and animals worked together in harmony. Robert continued to share his story at local schools and community meetings, always emphasizing the quiet strength of his faithful companion and the critical role that training, discipline, and empathy played in ensuring his safety. His words inspired others to not only re-examine their perceptions of pit bulls but also to embrace the power of community action in creating safer, more caring neighborhoods. Over time, the narrative of that night became more than just a story of one attack thwarted by a courageous dog. It evolved into a symbol of resilience, a beacon of hope that shone through the darkness of uncertainty. Titan, who had once been an ordinary pet, had now become an emblem of protection, a living testament to the remarkable abilities that can emerge when loyalty is nurtured and instincts are honed. His every bark, every stance, and every moment of vigilance was a reminder that heroes often come in unexpected forms, and that the bond between a person and their dog can be a powerful shield against the uncertainties of life. As the seasons changed and years passed, the memory of that night continued to echo throughout the community. Neighbors who had once been strangers now shared a deep sense of kinship, bound together by the collective memory of Titan's courageous act. Local media continued to highlight stories of animal heroism, and Titan's story was frequently cited as a shining example of the transformative power of responsible pet training and the incredible loyalty of pit bulls. In every retelling, the emphasis was not solely on the moment of danger but on the lasting impact of a simple act of protection, a reminder that, in the end, what truly matters is the love that drives us to care for one another. On quiet evenings, as Robert and Titan strolled slowly along the now familiar streets, the memories of that night were ever present. In the soft glow of streetlights, Robert would often glance down at his companion with a look of profound gratitude and admiration, a silent acknowledgement of the bond that had saved his life. Titan's calm, steady presence was a constant reassurance that no matter what challenges might arise, he would always be there to stand guard. The man and his dog, united by an unbreakable trust, had become inseparable partners in a journey defined by both vulnerability and strength. In the final analysis, the story of Titan's intervention was one of redemption and hope, a narrative that transcended the ordinary and spoke to the enduring power of loyalty, training, and love. It was a reminder that even on the darkest nights, when danger lurked in the shadows, a brave heart can shine like a beacon, guiding us safely home. And as the community moved forward, forever changed by the events of that unforgettable evening, the legacy of one extraordinary pit bull continued to inspire, unite, and protect, proving that sometimes the most powerful guardians are those whose strength is measured not in size or fury, but in the quiet resolve to keep others safe.